This happened at the end of December 2021. I was a second-year university student and I was studying nursing. I was sharing a townhouse about a 10-minute walk from campus. The area was in a quiet part of a relatively small city in Oregon. It had been fairly safe throughout the day. I was living there with two other girls at that time, but the two of them had gone back to their families for winter break. I myself stayed behind because I was working in the hospital during Christmas. We need to establish a little background to discuss why there was so much tension in the house before this all came about. There had been 4 of us staying in the townhouse originally. One of the girls, Megan, had quit a few months earlier. It was due to her boyfriend. He was that kind of fellow who took advantage of all the niceness people extended to him. He was only supposed to drop by every now and then, but he pretty much resided there. Over time, it became awkward and eventually not safe. The final straw came when one night he got physical with Megan when they fought. We heard everything coming from our bedrooms. When we broke it up, trying to end the fight, he took his anger out on us, began screaming, tossing objects, breaking every boundary. We had words with Megan in the morning and told her she had to get him out, for herself and for us, but she would not listen. She was emotionally trapped, maybe even afraid. I knew. I've been in an abusive relationship myself, physically and mentally, so I knew how deep that trap was. I had spent nearly 2 years trying to open her eyes to the way he treated her. In the end, however, it did not work. She wouldn't throw him out, so we told her we'd have to call the landlord. That's when everything came crashing down. She stormed out, angry with us, and refused to speak to us. Back to the night that it all happened. It was Christmas Eve. I had an early shift the following morning, so I kept things low-key. I made myself dinner, a simple one, such as pasta and garlic bread, watched a few episodes of a comfort show, then got ready for bed. I made sure doors were locked, all lights off, and the stove cooled. My bedroom was on the ground floor, so I descended. It was eerily quiet in the house, the kind of silence when you are the last one left. I got into bed and browsed on TikTok for a while. I remember the moment because the clock hit midnight. It was technically Christmas Day. I did not have any Christmas decorations in my room. No tree, no lights, nothing. Me and my phone, giggling silently at random videos. This is when I heard something upstairs. It seemed like the chairs in the kitchen moved. Not too loud, but distinct. The kitchen was directly above my room, so any sound filtered over a little. I originally thought it was the neighbors next door. The building was an old one, and sounds usually traveled through the walls. But then I remembered they'd messaged me first, asking me if I'd pick up a package from their front porch while they were away visiting relatives, so nobody should have been there. The noise ceased suddenly, and I attempted not to read too much into it. Perhaps something just shifted. Maybe one of the chairs wasn't fully under the table and groaned by itself. Houses groan in winter. I went back to my phone. A few minutes later, something happened that made my blood run cold. My bedroom door creaked open, creaking slowly. I stood still. I did not even put up my hand. The only thing that crossed my mind at that time was a tale that my second-grade teacher used to tell our class. She explained that someone had broken into her house when she was asleep. She pretended to be asleep throughout and informed us that it probably saved her life, as the intruder did not have to hurt her since she never caught a glimpse of their face. That went through my mind in less than a split second. But my phone, it was still going. The screen was on, and it was glowing on my face like a light. I had been gazing directly into the door, so now I was gazing directly into the face standing before me. We locked eyes. He stood with one foot in the room, the door a crack open, so we could catch glimpses of one another. I couldn't see his face. I was still adjusting from the screen's brightness to the dark, but I noticed a backwards baseball cap. That was all I could see before he stepped back and slowly shut the door. I lay there frozen, completely unable to move. It felt like forever, but only 10 seconds. I wasn't able to think. I wasn't able to cry. My hands shook, but my body did nothing. I knew I had to call the police, but I panicked. I didn't want to wake up my parents somehow. I know they have emergency alerts on their phones. I did not want to worry them. And I was not sure if the intruder was still in the house. If he happened to overhear me talking, what would he do? Instead of calling 911 right away, I messaged the boyfriend I was seeing at the time. I messaged, "Some random guy just broke into my house and came into my bedroom." He responded right away, instructing me to call the police. Now, that woke me up, so I called. The dispatcher was cool as a cucumber and asked if I was safe enough to go open the front door so that officers didn't need to break the door down. I told them absolutely not. I was not going up by myself. A couple of minutes had passed. Then I see flashlights walk across my bedroom window. Heavy knocking and identification by the police are audible to me. I went out from my room and they in to welcome me. They told me to wait outside on the back porch while 2 officers searched the entire house. One stayed behind with me. I'll never forget the way they moved through the place, guns out, one watching the other's back as they checked every room, like something out of a movie. They did not see anybody. Nothing appeared to be gone or out of place. They even tried lifting prints, but couldn't. Then they told me something that dropped my heart. The back door had been left open. There were no marks of being broken in, but I had locked it. I was sure about that. I remember double-checking it before heading downstairs. My then-boyfriend finally came over and stayed overnight. Despite his presence, I could not sleep. I kept getting up, opening doors, windows, closets, all the nooks of the house over and over again. I pulled chairs up under the handles of the front door, back door, and my bedroom door. My heart would not stop racing. The next day, I called our landlord. I told her everything and asked if she could visit and replace the locks. She refused, said it was not an emergency. She never replaced them, not even when we left months later. Ever since then, I've made habits out of things. Wherever I'm living currently, I lock every door at least 3 times at night. I also got a dog, not an enormous one, but big enough to bark. He comforts me, and I just installed a video doorbell. Those devices really make anxiety better when you're home by yourself. I truly do believe it was Megan's ex. He already had some access to the house. He probably made some key for himself when he was living there. I figure he came back that night, probably out of curiosity, anger, or whatever. But I will never know why he did not take anything, or why he did not harm me. If it was some random person, then why didn't they do anything? Why didn't they put whatever scheme they had into action? That's what irritates me. The uncertainty. I don't know his reasons for doing what he did, but to the person who broke into my house that Christmas Eve, I hope we never cross paths again. Before I begin, let me give a little background. My fiance and I were living in a small 2-story house on the outskirts of a peaceful neighborhood in northern Colorado. The house had 2 main entrances, one in front that came into the living room, and a second on the left side that came into a small utility room with the washer and dryer. It was an old house, pleasant but not beautiful, and we'd been renting it for almost a year. The house wasn't perfect, creaky floors, drafty windows, but we adored it. We also had a dog, Murphy. He was a big, friendly shepherd mix, already 10 years old and slowing down a bit. He liked to be outside, especially in the evenings. When we didn't have time to take him for a walk, like when one of us came home late from work, we'd put his collar on a long rope that we'd attach to a metal hook screwed into the side of the house. It gave him enough room to sniff and pee without our having to walk him at night. We used to take him out from the side door in the utility room, but as time passed, we found the big concrete step from the door to the ground was getting harder for him to get down. His back legs had started to stiffen, and he'd pause before going down the step. So we started taking him out the front door instead, where the porch was only 1 step up from the ground and much easier on his joints. This evening, we were alone, just Murphy and I at home. My fiancé, Jonah, was away with a group of friends, and I was just done with watching an episode of a television show on my laptop in my bedroom upstairs. It was late at night, around midnight, when it dawned on me that I hadn't let Murphy out to do his final bathroom break at night. Already, he had been waiting beside the door like he knew exactly what time of night it was. So I grabbed his leash, hooked him on the string outside, and let him out through the front door. As I always do, I closed and locked the door behind him. I didn't want to leave it open for even a minute or two, just something I've learned to do over the years. Then I went back to the kitchen to clean up. I wasn't hurrying. I knew Murphy enjoyed taking his time, especially when the weather was good. He'd make a lap around the front yard, then circle slowly around toward the gravel path beside the house before eventually scratching at the door to be admitted inside. A couple of minutes passed, and I heard it, a light scratch at the door. Murphy's way of signaling that he was ready. I walked up to the front door, my hand already on the handle, but I was halted. Ever since I was a child, I've had this weird tic. I always peek through the peephole first when opening the door, even if I know who's supposed to be standing there. It's probably because I spent too many years watching horror movies as a child. So I looked, but instead of Murphy's face glowering at me, I saw a guy. He stood right in front of the door, with his back to me, not knocking, not moving, just staring straight in front of him at the doorknob. I froze for a moment. My hand had already gone to the handle, and my heart dropped to my stomach. There was illumination on the porch, so I could recognize him quite well through the peephole. He was not a familiar person. He looked like a man in his 30s, with a frayed hoodie and jeans. His head was lowered downwards, his eyes fixed on the door handle, as if contemplating how to open it. And suddenly I heard another scratch, louder. That jolted me out of my daze. I instantly thought of picking up my phone. I picked up my trembling hands and rushed upstairs to call Jonah. I told him what was happening, although I am sure I was frantic and all over the place. He kept saying if I was sure, then stated he was going out straight away to go home. That was when it hit me. Murphy was still out there. I didn't know where in the world the man had come from, or how long he had been there. But Murphy was still on the line somewhere in front of me, and I had no idea if this stranger had touched him or attempted anything. I tiptoed back down the stairs and slid towards the front door again, attempting to be as quiet as I could. I wanted to check whether the man was still there. I looked through the peephole, and he had not moved at all, still holding the position with his head a little lowered, just gazing at the door. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I tried using the laundry room side door. If I could get out that way quietly, maybe I would be able to make it to Murphy's place. Then there was the matter of the gravel path across the side yard of the house. Every time you stepped on it, you'd make a great crunch sound, and I realized there was no way you could creep, let alone just walk, quietly without warning the man. I opened the laundry room door slowly, holding my breath. I looked out, but I couldn't see Murphy anywhere. He wasn't in the front yard, and he wasn't near the gravel path. The line had a short distance. It wasn't long enough for him to get away. My stomach churned. I started thinking the worst. What if that man had hurt him or kidnapped him? I slowly shut the laundry room door and went back to the front, having to keep a close watch on the stranger. I knelt beside the peephole and watched him. I still debated with myself over whether or not to call the police, but in my head, I still thought, he hasn't actually done anything. He's just standing there. Would they even bother? I tried to take a picture with my phone through the peephole, but what I got was a fuzzy shot of the glass itself. I couldn't get his face. I couldn't get anything. Then something terrible happened. He looked up. He just looked straight into the peephole. I'm positive he knew I could see him. His eyes were locked on me through that tiny hole. Then he grinned, at this slow, creepy, terrible grin that felt all wrong. It was like he wanted to share the secret with me that he knew I was looking at him, like he enjoyed being scared. He remained absolutely still. He didn't speak. He just grinned for maybe 3 seconds. Then, as quick as that, he came around and walked away. No rushing, just walked away down the street like nothing had happened. I didn't move. I stood there frozen for what felt like hours, waiting for him to come back and start banging on the door again. But he didn't. He was gone. A couple of minutes later, Jonah came home. I basically ran into his arms. We both went out and called Murphy, shouting his name. And then we noticed the end of the leash, sliced cleanly in two with something metallic. The metal clip that had been secured to the pipe was still there, but the rope was just dangling. Murphy was loose. We did manage to find him a couple of minutes afterward in our neighbor's backyard. He was wandering around as if nothing had happened. No marks, no signs of distress, just acting as if it was a mission. We did call the police though. They took down our details, they canvassed the neighborhood, and said they would make a report, but in all honesty, they weren't that interested. They never managed to track down the man. No arrests, no follow-up, nothing. It's been 3 years now since that night. We've moved to a new house since then, not because of anything, but I'm really glad to be somewhere else, and we're that much more cautious now. We never leave Murphy alone anymore, not even for a few minutes. We always take him out for long walks before dark, and we put security cameras all around the house, not because we want something to happen again, but because now we know it can. It happened about 6 years ago, when I was 20. That morning, I got back home pretty early, around 8 a.m. I'd spent the night at my boyfriend Ethan's place, but he had to leave early for work, so I figured I might as well head home and get some more sleep. My parents had already left for their 2-week vacation about an hour before I arrived, so I knew for a fact that I was completely alone in the house. Our home was a 3-bedroom, 2-up, 2-down affair on a street of houses in Brighton, the kind of place where everyone minds their own business and everything's just fine. Known to me. Cozy. I pushed the front door open, let my bag fall to the floor, and made my way for the stairs. But before I got halfway up, something distracted me. The back door, the one that opened out onto the small patio, was wide open, not unlocked, open. I pulled up short. It didn't quite seem right, but I was tired and half asleep. I told myself it was nothing. Perhaps Dad had simply left it open when he was going out, but that didn't seem right to me. My dad, Russell, is probably the most paranoid person you'd ever meet when it comes to locking up the house. There was no way he'd leave a door open, let alone when they were going away for 2 weeks. Even if there was a chance that I'd come back, he would have checked twice. That's just him. However, I brushed the unease aside. I went over, closed the door, checked the living room and the kitchen just to ensure nothing was amiss, then proceeded up to my room. I put my clothes on, used the bathroom to tidy myself up, and then went back to my bedroom. I closed the door behind me for no reason. I never do that. I have no clue why I did it this time, but I am so thankful that I did. I curled over onto my bed and started scrolling through my phone. Maybe 5 minutes had passed when I heard it. Footsteps. Deliberate, steady footsteps. Right next to my bedroom door. I stood there. My heart dropped. I couldn't even breathe for a second. Someone had been in the house the whole time, not just watching, waiting. And I just went around, wearing clothes, brushing teeth, completely unaware. I didn't move. I didn't inhale. I grabbed something close by, the first thing I could reach, my curling iron, and wrapped my hands around it like a club. I stared at the door, eyes fixed and unblinking, waiting for the handle to turn, waiting to see it open. I was going to jump out the window if it did. I would have rather taken the risk of falling than confront whoever was on the other side. And then the footsteps paced, slowly, cautiously, downstairs. I huddled tense for what felt like minutes. My trembling hands still clung to the curling iron. My legs felt like a distant object attached to me. I finally picked up my phone and called Ethan. I didn't even try to tell him. I just begged him to come over. He arrived 20 minutes later and found me still locked in my room, cowering on the floor. He is the one who found the scratch marks on the kitchen door. Someone had broken in. They had broken in. They were observing me. And this is what continues to give me the creeps to this day. They took nothing. Nothing. My mom's MacBook sat on the kitchen counter. Her jewelry box wasn't even disturbed. My PS4 and all my games sat in the living room right in front of them. My dad's expensive gaming station? Still where it belonged. None of it was moved. That's when I realized they weren't here to rob. They were here for something more. Or somebody. That's when the real terror really began to sink in. Later that week, I remembered something else that troubled me even more. Back then, I was quite active on Snapchat. I would share everything I was eating, where I was headed, with whom I was hanging out. My 5,000 followers, complete strangers to me, knew where I was every day. I had posted a selfie that morning, still in Ethan's hoodie, smiling, informing everyone I was finally home alone for the next 2 weeks. That's when it hit me. Someone could have been stalking my stories. Not merely watching, waiting. The mere idea made me sick. I deleted Snapchat that evening and never reopened it. But what happened a few days later still haunts me. 3 nights after the burglary, I slept again at Ethan's, too scared to sleep in my own bedroom. Around midnight, I had a message on my phone, a direct message on Instagram from an anonymous account. No photo, no username, just one message. Your bedroom door is still the only one you ever lock. I stared at it, my heart racing, hands shaking. I brought it to Ethan, and he immediately locked down the account. But that wasn't all. For a few weeks, I kept having strange things happen. Lights were flipped on that I knew I hadn't left them on. A towel was moved from one bathroom to the other, my toothbrush on the wrong side of the sink. I felt watched, always, as if a stranger had invaded my existence and never really left. Even now, I can't sleep without circling and checking all the doors, all the windows. I have a single-room apartment now, and I always continue to look over my shoulder. I leave my phone's notifications off. I never inform people where I am at any particular time, because I'll never know for sure who read that report. And I'll never really know if they ever left.